Mini enthusiasts, how you doing? Welcome back. I hope you're well and I hope you're having a great week. So I apologise I didn't upload a video last week, just lots and lots going on. Yeah, too busy to get out here and work on the Mini, so I didn't have any content and I just didn't want to upload a load of rubbish. So I apologise for that, but back on it this week. So in this week's episode, we're going to be getting things ready to refit on the rear subframe. And I'm going to show you something that probably doesn't get refitted on the new subframes when they're replaced, or maybe overlooked. So stay tuned for that. I thought I'd also mention as well, so I bought a few months ago now, I can't remember whether I ever showed it in the videos, but I managed to find the original radio with the car that would have come with this era Mini. I think it's a Philips R361. I think I paid £50, which I didn't think was too bad because it was two of them. So I thought, well, if one of them doesn't work, maybe I've got some spare components to get it working again. So that'll be nice to go in the car, keep a bit of the originality. Would have been the original optional radio that Rover would have fitted. So yeah, aside from that, we've got a brand new subframe to go back in the car. I'll talk about that a little bit in a moment. And obviously our first job is going to be to overhaul the rear radius arm assemblies, brakes and everything like that. And like I say, I'll show you what these are all about. So just to start off, the subframe we're using is a non-genuine subframe. It comes from Mini Spares. They cost just under £270 versus a genuine subframe, which I think is £510 at the moment. So it's not quite half the price, but it is significantly cheaper than a new genuine subframe. And I have used one of these subframes before. I used it in the budget project Bruce. And I got along okay with it. I thought for the money, it's a pretty good subframe, well put together. In fact, finished quite nicely as well, so they come fully painted. The only problem I had, which I'll look out on this before I fit it, is when I come to tighten up these bolts in here, the captive nut inside started spinning, so I will check that first because that caused me a bit of problems. I had to weld the captive nut from inside. But aside from that, if you're looking to save a few quid, it's a pretty good subframe to use. I would recommend it. Although this car, it's not quite no expenses spared, I have spent a lot of money on it. And yeah, nothing's ever no expenses spared really. There's always a budget to work for. So I'm fitting a non-genuine subframe. So the thing I wanted to show you today actually was these are the rear bump stops. Now I'm not sure if they were fitted to earlier Minis. They're definitely fitted to the later ones, definitely fitted to the sports pack Minis, and the ERA had a slightly different style as well. So I think on the later sports pack Minis, these were a nylon bump stop. On the sports pack, and I think maybe some earlier Cooper S cars, they were rubber, but they are there to fit or to stop the suspension cone crashing against the subframe, the cup in here, when it's at full compression and basically hitting metal on metal. So basically, there's a rubber cone. That rubber cone obviously fits in the cup like that. So the bump stop actually fits up inside in here, and you can see you've got the hole where it goes through. So that's looking on the inside of the cone. So at full compression, the inside of that cone there can hit on here and it makes a crashing, banging noise. So this bump stop basically goes in the hole there, and as you can see, when that cone's now at full compression, it's hitting against the bump stop rather than the subframe. So that bump stop is secured into the subframe by a spring washer, which goes on the back and holds it in place. Now, I've already fitted one side, so that's what it looks like when it's fitted. The only thing I would say, and like I say, I'm pretty sure a lot of people don't refit these, they get overlooked, they probably get left on the old subframe, and you probably wouldn't notice it. It'll only be, you know, particularly maybe, I'm not sure whether it would affect lowered cars more. I suppose it wouldn't make much difference because the cone's still got to compress about the same. But maybe when you've got passengers in the back, you'd get the crashing noise. But basically this bump stop is meant to fit inside that hole there, but as you'll see, that does not fit, and I've tried hammering it. It's not just an interference fit. This hole is too small here. Now obviously I can't shave off that bump stop because the spring washer still needs to fit. So what I'm actually going to have to do is get a step drill and drill out that hole. It's probably only a millimetre too small, but that is really, really thick metal. So let's get the step drill out. Let's enlarge that hole. And then the tricky bit is I've got to get that spring washer all the way up inside there and on the back. But I do have a little trick for doing that. So luckily, when using a step drill, the drill is just about fitting in the hole of the subframe, and I probably just want to take it out 1 mil to the next step to get that in. That's just starting to go, so we'll give it a little tap now. Obviously that's quite an interference fitting now. I probably don't need the washer on the back, but we will put it on anyway. Right, so probably really hard to see on the camera, but down inside that hole there, there's the back of that bump stop. The tricky bit is I've got to get that washer down in there. So little bit of a trick of the trade. What I'm going to do, get a socket which is about the same size. We'll dip the socket in a bit of grease, like so. And then we'll use the grease to stick the washer to the bottom of the socket, like so. Put an extension on the end and then guide it down into the hole. You have to hold the bump stop up in place, because obviously when you bang it, it pushes it down. And that should be the spring washer all home now and in. Turn the subframe over. So there we go. It's nice and snug in that hole, and that's our bump stops fitted. So like I say, if you didn't think them, it's not the end of the world. Nothing serious is going to happen, but that is there to prevent the cone. Well, it won't prevent it bottoming out. It will still bottom out, but it won't make a horrible banging noise on the rear subframe when it does. Like I say, I reckon that probably only comes into use when you've got it fully loaded, 4 adults and a full boot as well. So I hope that tip was useful. If you're new here and you're not a subscriber, please do consider subscribing. Remember to give it a thumbs up. Right, next up, I need to get these rear radius arm assemblies stripped. I did make a bit of a schoolboy error, I think, and when I stripped these off the rear subframe, I was a bit tight for space, so I just dumped them out the back, round the back of the garage, and obviously it's rained a lot since, and the way I'd put them, it had filled the drums up with water. So these drums looked pretty new, but they might be corroded really badly on the inside now. These arms are absolutely caked in mud and grease. So the actual pins, one side did need doing, the other side felt okay, but we're going to do both radius arm pins. We'll obviously put new brake hoses on, although these don't look very old. For the price of brake hoses, are about 7-8 quid each. It ain't worth messing about. And these rear shock absorbers, they are Spax gas adjustable. They're quite nice shocks actually, so I'm probably going to replace them, but we'll see. First thing is, let's get this all stripped down. Luckily, I reckon I've just caught that in time. Not too corroded on the inside. Right then, that's all stripped down. Let's have a quick look at what we've got. First off, really, one radius arm pin had radius arm had play in it, and I thought I need to do the pin. The other side I wasn't so sure. This is the better side, and as you can see, there's quite profound wear marks in there. So although that's worn and corroded and that, couldn't actually feel any play in it, probably because it started to semi-seize. Aside from that, all this side looks okay. It's had rear shoes and wheel cylinders recently, or at some point anyway, so the wheel cylinders are both free. They're not seized up at all, so I can probably save them. I can probably save the shoes, and although there's a light bit of corrosion inside the drums, it's nothing too bad. Rear wheel bearings, this side didn't feel fantastic, and if you look at the grease looks white, so I would imagine that's had moisture or water in it at some point, which has caused the grease to emulsify. Aside from that, all looks good. I mean, both radius arms, they can get, if they wear too far and elongate the holes, they're no good for refurbishment, but I think these look okay, to be honest. This side, much the same, to be honest. Again, new wheel cylinders on there. Rear drums look okay. Wheel cylinders are free and moving, so they haven't seized up. Don't know whether you saw in the video, I might mention it on the commentary. That wheel bearing had a ridiculous amount of grease in it, which is not good. And as you can see, this is the radius arm pin that had play, and you can actually see when I took the pin out, actually it come out with the rollers, the needle rollers as well. So that is completely and utterly knackered. But hopefully, same story on the actual radius arm itself. The holes look okay, they're not elongated, so I should be able to refurbish them. And it's very much just a clean up. I'll probably put new bearings in it. I think the wheel cylinders and shoes, I'll clean them up. I'll take the wheel cylinders apart. I think they're okay. Put a new pin, remount the radius arm, that's okay. New brake hoses, I'll probably put new brake, copper nickel brake pipes on it as well. Excuse me. And the radius arms themselves, as you can see, they're absolutely clogged up with grease and crud and dirt and grime. So I'm probably going to take them out with the Karcher, put it on the hardest setting and just blast them off. We'll give them a lick of paint and then start refurbishing them. So there we go, one step closer. Subframe, we're starting to get back together now. All the components starting to clean up. I hope you enjoyed today's video. It was certainly good to get back on it and do a few bits. If you did enjoy today's video, please remember to give it a thumbs up. If you want to drop me a comment, I'll read all the comments. And like I say, if you're not a subscriber, please do consider subscribing. And I'll catch you again on the next one. Cheers everyone, bye.